Hello, and welcome back to the Holistic Hatha Yoga Podcast. I'm Kelsey, your host, and I am so happy to be here with you today. Today, we are going to dive into some juicy topics of Buddhism and Buddhist wisdom and how it ties in with yoga. So, I'm super excited about this. I feel like I've talked about Buddhism quite a bit on this podcast, but in retrospect, looking through, I'm like, I really haven't, and maybe I should. So here we are. I'm circling back to kind of almost like my own roots in spirituality here by diving back into Buddhism for kind of my explanation of how it's all connected. But anyway, how are you? How is your week? Um, I want you to just check in with your body right now, and let's just take a collective deep breath in and out and in and out, and one more time at your own pace, in and out. All right, and I hope that brings you to a little bit more calm and centered point to then receive the rest of this podcast. Um, I have had a fucking week, my friends. It's been a lot. I've had some real life changes and shifts and dramatic, wild, uh, traumatic, and quite honestly tragic things going on. And so this too shall pass, and we're handling it all with grace and as much compassion and patience as we can. And day by day is all you can do in times like these. So anyway, so that's just if you're in a similar boat, or maybe I hope you're not. I hope your life is going a little bit nicer. But if you are in some tragic waters or feeling a sort of way, I hope you can also adopt the this too shall pass attitude, the attitude of non-attachment, and not to say that we don't care, not to say that we let go and just don't let it bother us, but there does have to be some level of just breathe. This will be okay. This is circumstantial. Everything is always changing. Everything is always in flux, but sometimes they're just a little bit more obvious than others. Anyway, so moving on. Oh, also thank you. Thank you so much to everybody who has purchased one of the audios of the mantra meditations. Let me know how you think or what you think, how it felt for you, if it helped at all, if you had any aha moments, if you've had any kind of changes in energy since, if you've been practicing it consistently or even just on a weekly basis or something, let me know. So drop some comments in either my rate, review, subscribe. I don't know what you're listening to this on, but on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, it's pretty easy to just drop a review. So you could let me know there. You could let me know on a form on my website, holistichathayoga.com, or you could email me or reach out and send me a message on Instagram. That's probably the easiest. I'm at Holistic Hatha Yoga, and you can let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you. So again, thank you. And if you haven't grabbed one yourself, go try it out. There's an Om one, or there is a Ganesha one. I'm also going to be dropping another one here soon, and then the long-awaited Yoga Nidra will be coming as well, hopefully in May. So keep your eyes open for that. Anyway, back to today's episode. Yeah, we're kind of diving back into Buddhism, which is my roots of kind of how I found yoga to begin with. And I found Buddhism through the idea, basically just through different philosophies. And I really loved the idea of non-attachment, and I loved the idea of mastering the mind and meditation and all of these things. Um, and that's kind of what started my spark down this path that eventually led me to learn yoga and go on to become a teacher and all of the things. So really it was Buddhism that had first brought this to my attention. Um, so today I'm reading just some excerpts and definitely not even all. It's really just from one little chapter that I just so happened to open up to in my Kindle of all places. So, and I started reading and I was like, oh, this is a great snippet. I was like, oh, this is a great snippet. This is a great snippet. And then I was like, oh my God, this is an entire podcast episode of just breaking down these little snippets of Buddha words. So that is exactly what we're going to do today. So the book I was pulling from is the Dhammapad, which is basically the Buddha's path of truth. It has 423 verses in it, and it's just as old as the Buddha himself. He is estimated to have passed away in 400 BC. So he was living somewhere between 480 to 400 BC, and like guesstimates. So these words are well over 2,500 years old into 2,600 years old, and they are, well, I guess I'd put it at 2,400. Okay, never mind, my math is off there. Around 2,400 years old. Still pretty stinking old. Older than the Bible, you know, older than Jesus Christ, which I love to remind people of that. Not that I don't love Jesus Christ. He's a great prophet, but indeed that is all he was, is another prophet, just like the rest. So I don't put him on a pedestal, which is why I don't consider myself a Christian, because I believe all the prophets are speaking of the same thing. So I do not bow to any single one because we're all part of the same. So I don't know, but that rubs people the wrong way. So anyway, I'll bow to like creation, to like the supreme Godhead, the capital S self, source, whatever you want to call it. And there is something really humbling about that. But that's not to another human being who also exists on this earth with me. Like, I am just as worthy as you, and you are just as worthy as me. We are on the same physical playing field, literally. And so, like, we're not going to be putting people up on pedestals here. That's not our job. Anyway, I'll get off that soapbox. You can tell I might have a problem with religions that idolize people. Anyway, whether good or bad, good, bad, or ugly, it does not matter. So anyway, let's just dive right in. This first one, it talks about karma in a very simple way, and so I just loved the simplicity of it and wanted to share it because it's a very good description in my opinion. This is verse 126, and it says, "Some people are born again. Evildoers go to hell. Righteous people go to heaven. Those who are free of all worldly desires attain nirvana." So I like this because we're using the words heaven and hell before Christ. Like I said, this is BC. BC. So this is Buddhism. We're using these terms and these ideas of these places as descriptors of our earthly experience, and so within this passage, he's not saying you die and go to hell and you go to this literal like eternal hell where you burn, or you go to like a beautiful heaven paradise where you just relive the same life with the same people and it's lovely and basically a replay but no sickness or hunger, which is impossible and unrealistic. um, so again, we're talking about not going to heaven or hell as physical places. We're talking about going to heaven or hell as your next life. So if you are evildoer, you go to hell, meaning your next life is going to be a lot harder. And you're going to have to relearn these lessons and like overcome some things and do some real growth in order to get any better of circumstances. And then righteous people go to heaven, meaning these people who are working towards righteousness or towards this betterment of themselves and society, they will go to heaven, meaning their subsequent lives will get better and better, and they will reach, and not even saying better like that, you reach like higher um, monetary places or different societal places, but like you get a richer life in the fact of like richer relationships, richer love, more real people, more kindred spirits in your path, more support, more love, more angels, all the things, I'm not talking about, oh, you eventually become king of the world. Like, no, we're not talking about earthly desires. That's an earthly desire. We're talking about true essence, true power, and true love, really, of just like returning back to the self and then loving thyself, and then the outpouring of love coming from you to others because you recognize that we're all one. Anyway, so the righteous people go to heaven, meaning they have a more aligned, and they get closer to reaching enlightenment and or nirvana each lifetime. And then it says, those who are free of all worldly desires attain nirvana. So then basically those who like it, and again, this is simple. You don't even need me to translate this shit. You can figure it out. Um, but yeah, basically having desires, it's what keeps you on the wheel of life and death. Wanting things and having ambition to do more in the world and create more, and just like to just in that, not in a bad way, not to say like, oh, you want more things and you're being greedy. No, but even just like you feel like there's more for you to do. Like you are on a mission. You've got some shit to do here. Um, those are still worldly desires. And as long as you still have worldly desires, aka desires to be part of this world, to be giving always into this constant ebb and flow, um, rise and fall, life and death, birth and rebirth, or birth, death, and rebirth, like this constant cycle. As long as you're still subjecting yourself to that and still a willing participant in the desire wheel, you will still continue to be reborn. But it's not until you finally are exhausted of, and I don't mean exhausted in a negative way, but when you finally have kind of seen and done and learned all the things, and then you're like, I see, I'm good. Like, I'm good. It's like, I had this conversation with a friend once, and we likened it to like a roller coaster, of like being at an amusement park, and we're souls, and being on the roller coaster is like taking on a new body, and so we're all these little souls running around the theme park, aka the world, going, yeah, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited. We got so much to do today. And it's so funny because, like, if you've ever been to an amusement park, in the morning, everyone's like super stoked. Towards the evening, everyone's crying, the kids are falling apart, everyone's like huffy and puffy and trying to get to the car. It's a shit show. It's a shit show because everyone's exhausted from all of the fun that they've had all day, And so like life is very much the same, where we are kind of running, and we're going on the roller coaster. We're experiencing the highs and the lows and the thrills and the scares and the love of the ride, the thrill of the ride. And learning all the things, learning, oh, this is what this feels like, this is what that feels like, this is what it feels like to do a corkscrew loop-de-loop. Holy crap, I've never felt that in my life. All these new experiences, these earthly desires. And then you get off that roller coaster, aka you die, um, and then you move on to the next one. You're like, that was fun and cool. I had so much fun. Let's do it again. And so you go and you get on a different ride and you ride that one and you feel what it's like to do this move and that move. And it's a water ride this time. And so you get some splashes and you're like, blah, now I'm all wet. I need to go walk around some more and get dry and then go get on another ride, And so, my friend and I were talking about this and, cause I was saying, I was like, I feel like I've always felt like a very old soul. From the time I was born, I felt old. And then from a very young age, I was consistently told that I was an old soul by a lot of different adults. And I noticed the common theme, I guess. I was just like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. Someone else has told me that too. And maybe people that were totally unrelated did not talk to each other. It's not like they all got together and like, oh, that friend of ours, their kid, the old soul. Yeah, let's all call her that. Like, no, it wasn't like that. It just so happened. Anyway, so I was telling her that I just kind of felt like I was an older soul and I was kind of on my way out. And I love her, Laura. Shout out to Laura, my Italian friend, Laura Milani. Absolutely love her. Some of the best, most fun energy comes from her. And she was like, really? She's like, no, no, no. Like, she's like, I get it. I understand that sounds right for you. She's like, but I'm so excited. And you have to understand our relationship. I was an American. She's Italian. We had a mutual love for coffee, and we were in the same yoga teacher training, of which there was zero coffee. But there was a small break of time between, it was basically like our breakfast and then our philosophy class, that we had just enough time to literally run from our yoga shala down to the village where there was like a little cafe where we'd get 2 shots of espresso, take the shots like literal alcohol shots, like just down them, and then run on back to our yoga shala just in time to get to philosophy before it started, before we were late, before they locked the doors and you're not allowed in. Um, so anyway, she was like, I'm ready. I am here. I am gonna be doing some more lives. Like, and I'm here for it. I'm excited about it. I'm ready for it. And then she likened it to the roller coasters. She's like, I feel like a kid. Like, I feel like a kid in a candy store or like a kid on a roller coaster. And I just want to get on another and another and another. And it's gonna be so much fun. And I was like, wow, what an interesting thing. And also, like, how real must reincarnation be if we can feel this within our own soul, within our own light, that like we we've either got a long ways to go left, or like we're kind of like moving into a different direction. um anyway, so that is the Buddhist take on karma. You either go to hell, aka have worse reincarnations, you go to heaven, aka you get better reincarnations, or C, you don't give a shit about it anymore in the funnest way possible, aka you have found all the love that you um, are, really, and that you are kind of released from the cycle of life and death to attain, aka nirvana. Um, so, yeah, again, just kind of to point out that reincarnation is a very long um, idea. It's been around for a very long time, and it was around long before the Buddha was here too. So, um, before people just kind of poo-poo it as woo, let's really think about physics here. Anyway, moving on. The next one is verse 133. Do not speak harshly to anybody. Those who are spoken to will answer thee in the same way. Angry speech is painful. Blows for blows will touch thee. I love this verse because it's so simple about basically the manifestation of our relationships and how everyone is a mirror to us. And so if we come at somebody angrily, like, of course they're going to come back at us angrily. But if you come at somebody with love, they're more likely to come back at you with love and kindness as well. And so, like, this is just such a simple rule that I wish people would just fucking follow. uh, if you just turn on the news, it's like, what the fuck? And you turn it right back off. So yeah, just realize that, like, if you want a good outcome, you should probably come at it with good energy. And that's basic manifestation. It's the basic just mirror of the world around you of what you are. So again, if you want compassion and kindness and respect bestowed upon you, you should come to people with those things to give them as well. And I see this with parents sometimes and kids. Not to say sometimes you do have to be stern or strict with your kids, but that's not all the time, you know? And so I see people be ridiculously harsh with a child, and then the child responds very harshly back, and then the parent's like, ah, how dare you disrespect me? And it's like, are you kidding me? You just talked to them like they were like a piece of dirt on your shoe. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You could have said the same exact sentence in a kind and polite and respectful way, and you would have gotten a totally different answer and energy from that child. And the same thing goes with adults and any person that you speak to. Children, people, adults, teenagers. Teenagers, just, I advise don't talk to them. I'm sorry, teenagers. I'm sorry. No, I'm kidding. But they can be a little sass. But anyway, that was just a very simple one of just the mirrors of our relationships. Um, so yeah, I just loved that one because it's in the most simple of terms. And it's just, again, these are just basic truths. And mind you, this book even, the Dhammapada, was not written down until about the first century BC. So it's about 300 or more years later after it was spoken. You know, until then, it was all passed down orally. And these were all orally remembered and orally passed down because they're such simple truths that, of course, it's easy to remember because it's the truth. Um, anyway, so it's one of those things where it's like, once you know it, you can't unknow it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. So it's very easy to then pass down. And it's very easy to then see in your life. So, like, again, let me know if you see any of this kind of reflect in your own life. Moving on, 135, verse 135. As a cowherd with his staff drives his cows into the stable, so do age and death drive the life of men. I thought this one was cute. Just because it's a very nice and peaceful yet effective reminder that, like, there is an end to this life, and it's not very far off. You know, we get at best 100 years, 100 good, like, maybe, and they say that at best. Um, and things are changing now, but, like, as we know it, as humanity knows it, a lifespan is 100 years or less, and that's not very long, as we've seen in the course of history. And so, um, I think this one's just a very nice reminder because I don't think enough people remember that. And I've been affected by death recently, and I mean, everyone's affected by death all the time, every day. But when it's right in your face, it's always like, oh fuck, I forgot that happens. Like I forgot that happens to all of us, and this is so impermanent, and it just gives you such perspective. So I think if you just remember that every day we are walking a day closer to death. We're walking into our age. And so, like, just make the days count. Come from a place of love and compassion. When you get heated, try to bring it back down to a normal level and come again with compassion and love towards yourself and the other in the situation. Um, so just again, these gentle reminders that is what's leading us, ultimately. And so we need to remember that. We need to honor that by honoring and respecting our own life and other life beings on our path. Um, Moving on to number 145. Well makers lead the water wherever they like. Fletchers bend the arrow. Carpenters bend the log of wood. Good people fashion themselves. So I love this one because, again, we're talking about like self-development and self-awareness 2,400 years ago. And so like I know everyone's like, oh, everyone's just becoming so aware and the consciousness of the planet is just starting to rise and blah blah blah. And it's like, no. I mean, like, yes, but no. Um these truths have always been here, and we humans have been perfecting ourselves and practicing mindfulness for thousands of years. This is nothing new. This is not something that popped up in the last 50 years. This is not a fad of Carl Jung. You know, this is this is humanity. This is our purpose. This is what we're here for, is to be aware and to be self-aware, be conscious human beings, not working in the unconscious mind, not just moving through life unconsciously on autopilot, which so many fucking people are. It's scary. It is literally scary. So, um, if you have found your light, shine you know, shine that shit. Make it bright because we need it. We need it. We need it. Um, so yeah, I loved that because when I read that, I was like, see, good people fashion themselves. Like, that is what we're talking about. That's what self-development is. That's what yoga is. That's what hatha yoga is that self-development aspect of consistently watching our words, watching ourselves, taking care of our mind, body, and soul so that we can also help others around us be at their optimum mind, body, and soul. Um, and so, and we all help in different ways. And that's the beauty of humanity. That's the beauty of community. And that's why humanity has made it as far as we have. Um, so yeah, I thought that was a really beautiful one. This next one is kind of lengthy. I'm going to take a sip of my tea. Hang on. It's a little bit of a lengthy one here. 153 and 154. Um, and we use the word tabernacle in this verse quite a few times. I actually had to look it up. I was like, what the fuck is a tabernacle? I've heard of this word a bazillion times. And it's obviously it's like associated biblically, bleh, I'm so tongue tied. Biblically, there we go. But basically, a tabernacle is a light structure or shelter that can be like moved. Usually, it can be moved. Sometimes they can be immovable or like stationary, but most of the time they can just be picked up and moved and set down again. Um, like a little hut or a place of worship or a small sanctuary. Um, I think about those movable chicken coops when I think about this, but that's not what it is. Anyway, so moving on, 153 and 154. Looking for the maker of this tabernacle, I shall have to run through a course of many births, so long as I do not find him. And painful is birth again and again. But now, maker of the tabernacle, thou hast been seen. Thou shalt not make up this tabernacle again. All thy rafters are broken, thy ridgepole is sundered. The mind, approaching the eternal, has attained to the extinction of all desires. So again, here we're talking about reincarnation, and we're using the idea of um, a tabernacle being like our body or our rebirth, and that the maker of the tabernacle or the maker of the structure is like our spirit or consciousness, God, um, oneness, eternal love, whatever you want to call it. And so again, I thought this was a really beautiful way to describe it, of like you're living in this tabernacle, and you don't know who's made it. And so you just kind of keep living in it, and then finally you see the maker, and then it's like all of a sudden it kind of disintegrates and falls apart because you're like, oh, you're who made this. Like, you're actually the reason for this. And like, now that I've lived this life and all the things, like, I don't need this anymore. I don't need this body. I don't need this life. I realize what this is. I get it, and I can join the universal consciousness or the nirvana, whatever. So this is where Buddhism and yoga really differ. Is Buddhism does not really believe in like a personal soul. Um, they believe in like a oneness, but not like a personified soul. Where yoga in like the Hindu tradition does focus more on that individualized, the water droplet is still part of the ocean, but the droplet is still a droplet in its own right. So those are kind of the main differences here. So I lean more towards the Hindu version. I find the Buddhist version to be, I don't know if it's just because I'm a woman or what, but it's just a little bit too dry, too boring. Anyway, but I really love the idea of just like, once you see the maker, you don't need to continue living in the tabernacle because you can just move on. Like, you realize it's just this little structure, this little tiny thing in this massive world. And you're finally like, fuck the structure. I'm just going to go live in the massive world free of all this little bullshit. Um, and yeah, so again, these ideas, these persistent ideas of energy flowing, of that movement of energy and that consistent change. And also like our evolution, the evolution of our soul through reincarnation. Um, Moving on to number 165. By oneself, evil is done. By oneself, suffers. By oneself, evil is left undone. By oneself is purified. Purity and impurity belong to oneself. No one can purify another. Dun 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 dun. By oneself, evil is done. By oneself, suffers. By oneself, evil is left undone. By oneself is purified. Purity and impurity belong to oneself. No one can purify another. I just thought that was so important. I had to read it again. I'm sorry if that was annoying to you. Um, I love this because, as I kind of spoke on at the beginning of this episode, that I don't enjoy the God complex of giving a human being God status, I guess. I'm like, I just am not about it. And I'm not about going to a pastor to have him re, uh, relieve you of your sins. I am just not about it. I'm not about going to somebody to ask God or give you the message from God about something, or to, yeah, purify you of your wrongdoings or of your sins. And so I find that inexcusable and quite ridiculous. And I find this verse, number 165, just again, so simply stated, where it's just like, how can you cannot argue with that. Like, how can you possibly argue with it? Um, and this is why I love the Buddhist tradition, because it's all based on these truths, that Buddha had came to on his own accord, through meditation and just through mindfulness and through just seeing with real true eyes, um, and he's very much a prophet. These people who said all of these wise things, I'm not saying they weren't divinely inspired. I'm saying that they were still a human, you know. And so again, you can't put someone on a throne, and you can't put somebody above you and say, "Oh, you're the key to me being purified." Like, no, 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 no. That's not how this works. You are your own key, and you are also your own cage. So figure out which one you want to be. Do you want to be your own cage, or do you want to be your own key? Because you can be either or, you know. Um, you can damn yourself, or you can enlighten yourself. So again, it's up to you. It's your choice. It is it's the personal path. So I just love the emphasis on no one can purify another. And Buddha really, really did like just pound on this nail, because a lot of people of his time were trying to do that to him. They were trying to put him on a throne, and they were trying to come to him and say, relieve me of my sins, and, make me better, purify me. And he's going, bitch, I can't do that. Only you can do that. Like, I'm telling you these things, these truths, because I came to them. And you can also come to these same truths if you just sit with yourself and you be quiet and you let the universe speak to you through your soul, through your innermost knowing. You will hear it. So I love that. Because again, people will be like, well, Buddha, he was like a god. And it's like, no, he wasn't. And if you read the books, and if you read his story, he even stated many times, do not idolize me. Do not turn this into a religion. And that's kind of why I don't follow Buddhism as much as I do, or as much as I used to. I used to call myself a Buddhist. I used to go to a Buddhist temple. I used to do the Buddhist prayers and the songs and the hymns, all the things. And then the more and more that I did, I was like, actually, Buddha said not to do any of this. This is this is not right. This is a gross manipulation of the words. Not in a bad way, but it's just in an overly done way, that he never intended it to be, to where I look at it more of a philosophy, and that's really more of what it is a philosophy of life, and it's just basic human truths, really, and it is not a religion. There is no savior here, and he was very clear about that, and I think that's sometimes misconstrued. Um, Moving on, the next one, 166. Let's see. Hang on, my notes. Oh, no, never mind. Okay, so in 166. Let no one forget his own duty for the sake of another's, however great. Let a man, after he has discerned his own duty, be always attentive to his duty. So I really like this one because it talks about each man, each person, having their own duty, and that each of us are here to do our own duty, and that, um, yeah, that no matter how great someone else's duty might seem, you can't drop your own and be like, oh, I'm just going to go help that guy do that because that seems cool. Like, no, you cannot do that. That's escaping your own duty, for the sake of another's. And you might be able to convince yourself that that's better for people involved, for yourself, for them, for your family, who knows what society. But in truth, it's never better to lose yourself to someone else's duty. It is always advised to still keep sight and keep your eye on your own prize, on your own duty. And yes, help others, as others will help you along the way of your own journey. However, your job is not to go fix someone else's life. Your job is not to go fulfill someone else's duty. And um, I think we lose that a lot. I think we've lost that a lot right now. And I think if humanity can again return to these simple truths that were spoken, you know, thousands of years ago and were hidden really from us, I think, in a lot of ways, or told was foo-foo or whatever, not real or ridiculous, whatever, satanic. Like, there's been all sorts of things. I've heard so many things about yoga being, you know, bad, or meditation being an opening the door for demons to come in. And to that I say, the only demons that can come in are the demons already within. The only demons that can come in are the ones that are already there. So the ones that are quote unquote coming in, it's really just your own demons that you're finally facing. So I suggest you go into deep meditation, battle those demons, and then you can come to like a more peaceful state where you can meditate regularly. That was kind of a question about last week. Someone was like, well, I thought in meditation we're supposed to just think of nothing and not let ourselves think of anything, which is true. That is our goal here. To which I had replied, basically it's just like, uh, yes, that is the goal. However, some people, and yeah, specifically just people in trauma and or a lot of buried emotions, um, refuse to sit in meditation. Like, I've literally had people get up and walk out of places where we were then about to start a meditation because they just simply will not, you know, because they don't want to quote unquote open the doors to the demons. And I'm like, bitch, I'm sorry to tell you. Who's gonna tell her? Who's gonna tell her? Like, it's the demons inside you. Sorry. Let's get those out, and then we can work on some other shit. So anyway, yeah, I think just being aware of one's own duty and staying the course and being mindful is totally the way. Totally the way. Um, and so, yeah, moving on to the next one. This is kind of like, it's actually quite a few in a row. I'm reading verses 167 through 171. And this is from chapter 13, and which is titled The World. So, like, each of these chapters is titled a different thing, like the self, society, blah, blah, blah. This one's the world. Because each of the kind of sets of verses have to do with these kind of themes. So, anyway, chapter verses 167 to 171 starts chapter 13, which is the world. I don't know which chapter the other ones were out of. Um, But anyway, so I found these to be very, I don't know. See if you see any similarities to today's day and age. If any of this checks out to be true. 2,426 years later. All right. Do not follow the evil law. Do not live on in thoughtlessness. Do not follow false doctrine. Be not a friend of the world. Rouse thyself. Do not be idle. Follow the law of virtue. The virtuous rest in bliss in this world and in the next. Follow the law of virtue. Do not follow that of sin. Virtuous rests in bliss in this world and in the next. Look upon the world as a bubble. Look upon it as a mirage. The king of death does not see him who thus looks down upon the world. Come, look at this glittering world, like unto a royal chariot. The foolish are immersed in it, but the wise do not touch it. And it goes on, and there's more and more to that. But I really loved first 167. I'll break it down a little bit. Do not follow evil law. Do not live on in thoughtlessness. Do not follow false doctrine. Be not a friend of the world. So the be not a friend of the world sounds a little harsh, but it's also true. uh, if you have watched any of the things that have unleashed over the last little bit of modern society over the last few years, we have all seen the unleashing of more and more evil at the basis of laws and at the basis of the world, or of the greater powers of the world, I guess. Not saying that the world's evil, but the and just pushing people and driving them like slaves is evil. So again, just not being thoughtlessness or not live on in thoughtlessness, not just being a cog in the fucking machine, not just getting up and going to work and being like, I'm just gonna do the things and do this and that, and because it's like, no, again, back to the last one, don't abandon your own duty for the sake of someone else's. But again, just not following that false doctrine and not following evil law. So I thought that was very, very just like, you don't say. And then the next one, 168. Rouse thyself. Do not be idle. Follow the law of virtue. The virtuous rests in bliss in this world and in the next. So again, just talking about taking action. It literally says, rouse thyself. Do not be idle. Like, these are very strong messages of action, Um, and then he talks about following the law of virtue. It does, I mean, within these truths, is like the Buddhist Eightfold Path, which is very much like the Patanjali's Eight Limbs of Yoga, and or the yamas and niyamas of yoga, or the societal code. It's all basically like, do not steal, do not harm people, do not speak illy. Very much like the Ten Commandments. Shockingly enough, all of these things, there is like a through point. There is a thread here. And then getting into number 170, look upon the world as a bubble. Look upon it as a mirage. The king of death does not see him who thus looks down upon the world. And I'm not saying look down upon it as like it's a bad thing, but it's like, if you can see it as a bubble, like he says, like zoom out here, death does not see him who thus looks down upon the world. Because when you zoom out to that level, you understand that you can't die. That what you are is eternal and deathless and forever, and that you've been here for a very long time and you've been doing this for a very long time. And now all of a sudden you've just remembered, you know, and you're ready to go home. You're ready to return home. And by home, that doesn't mean another birth on planet Earth, you know, it means rejoicing with the stars above. And number 171, come look at this glittering world like unto a royal chariot. The foolish are immersed in it, but the wise do not touch it. So again, it's talking about the world as this kind of like this place of desire, it's like a fun house. It's like a casino, it's like everyone's coming in for the cheap thrills and they're all excited and like everyone's, really into it and really immersed in the situation. But those who actually know what is going on, you're not touching it with a 10-foot pole. Not to say that you're not immersed in life, but you have a different type of drive than the worldly desire and possession people. And so there's a distinct difference, between the foolish who are immersed in the royal chariot and the wise who are not touching it, and it kind of is like, it's a very sobering thought, like, ooh, look at this glittering world with all of its bells and whistles, all the fun stuff. But really, it's like, it's riddled in pain and death and sin and grossness and, everything that we don't really need, but also so many great, beautiful things, and we get to see so much happen in front of our very eyes, and this like physical reality that just bends with our own minds. Like, it's quite amazing. But once you've been through the casino, like, all there is to do, and what the real jackpot is, which is going home with your worth in your heart, not waiting for that big payout at the casino to feel better or to feel powerful. You're just leaving because you don't care about the earthly desire, of money or fortune or whatever it is, like 10 million houses and a fancy car or fame or whatever. Those are all egotistical matters of wanting, those are all serving the ego to some level. And so it's kind of saying, yeah, the ultimate flex is like checking out, and being like, I'm actually good on that. Not to say check out on life and just it's all boring and this sucks and da da da, I just want to die. No, that's not what we're saying here. But what we are saying is that this is beautiful, this is amazing, this is where we are in the present, but this is not the end, nor is it the beginning, you know. Um, this is a part of the journey that we're on, and we're still on that journey. Um, and I think that's a really powerful and beautiful point of view. It's a beautiful place to be viewing the universe from, in my opinion. So, um, yeah. With that, I am gonna close this out because I was like, oh, this is gonna be a 20 to 30-minute episode tops, and we are coming in on an hour, my friends. So I might break this one up into two parts. I don't know. We'll see. Let me know. Let me know if you like the long form. Let me know if you like it shorter. Drop a comment. Shoot me a message on Instagram. I'm at Holistic Hatha Yoga. And let me know. Like I said, I've always intended for these to be kind of like bite size. But just lately I've been into the longer discussions. But I hope you've enjoyed this discussion of just these deep dives, and I hope you've like found some really little nuggets of gold in here, and maybe spark some curiosity into Buddhism. And I encourage you to just go out and find any Buddhist book, and do some reading on it if you, or like Audible. Audible's a great one. I know so many people listen to like books. I was gonna say books on tape, but it's not on tape anymore. It's just on Audible. Um, yeah, check it out. Anything like that. The Buddha Said by Osho. That's a great book where it's just a bunch of um, things that the Buddha said, and Osho kind of dives in and gives a breakdown. I love that book. You could do even just a version of this, the Dhammapada, the Buddhist Path of Truth. There's a few different translations of it. They're all fairly similar. And they're very simple. They're very simple to read. They don't require like translation. They're already translated. And they're very simple, like these verses that I read to you. So I highly recommend reading those as well. Because like I said, that's the beautiful thing that I love about Buddhism is like, to me, and like I love a debate. So like, come, let me know if you disagree also. But I just don't find anything that you can argue with in Buddhism. Like it's all truths, it's just truths. That just sounds so funny. Like I'm just like it's just truth. Like I don't even know what else to say about it. There is no debate because it's just like ultimate truths. So I don't know. You tell me if you think the same. Um, but I think they're very universal. I think they're timeless. I mean, even now, like, even Buddha then knew that a lot of laws and politics were evil. You know, nothing has changed. It's very much the same today. Um, I'm reading a book right now on Cleopatra and like Jesus Christ. I mean, pardon my pun, but um, the things that were going on in that dynasty, because Cleopatra was the last queen of the independent, era there of the Ptolemies. Um, but all of the successors before her, so like basically what she inherited was some crazy fucking shit, my friends. And maybe you're already well versed in the stories and stuff, but like there were some true atrocities and true evil afoot within that family that they just did some fucking terrible things to each other and cruel, uh, just unforgivable things, murdering sons and butchering them and putting them in boxes and sending them to mothers on their birthdays. Like that actually happened. And other terrible things actually happened. And so, we're sitting around here saying like, all this shit, all this, the Epstein files and this, that, the other, and the satanic people who, do these rituals and run the world. This is unprecedented times and whatever. It's like, no, this is ancient as shit. Stuff like this been going on for a very, very, very long time. As far as just like evil being, being around and being afoot and being terrible. Um, which is why it's so important to fight for love, to fight for the light, and to be that light in the world. But anyway, I'll get off. I don't even know how I got on this tangent. Basically just, yeah. Don't follow evil laws. Follow your own good, virtuous laws. And one love, one light, my friends. Dive into the Buddha if you feel a little bit more inclined after this episode. And yeah, feel free to reach out. And I am really looking forward to talking to you guys next week. I may have a guest for us here soon, trying to solidify some dates. And yeah, I'm excited for that as well. So, thank you again for being here, my friend. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And I hope you have some fun with these little nuggets, and that it's not all doom and gloom, and that we are all just here riding our own roller coaster, and this too shall pass. So we'll get there one day at a time, my friends. One day at a time. Take care, and we will talk soon. Bye. Om Loka Samista Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om